Hello, my name is Natalie Ginter, and this is the Faribault School District Declining Enrollment Community Input Findings Report, the short version. There is a full-length version of the report available on YouTube and through this Google Drive for just the slides. Some contact information and a little bit about me as your project lead. I've served on the Enrollment Task Force Committee. I have one child pictured here. His name's Keaton, born and raised in Faribault and a Faribault High School student. I have dedicated the last 22 years of my career to serving Faribault. I have currently served or am serving on over 30 boards and committees for area organizations, many focused on youth and education. I have 25 years of experience in population health improvement, including community health needs assessments such as this. My master's is in community health. I am a 2020 graduate of the Blanding Community Leadership Program, and I currently work for Allina Health as their community engagement lead, serving their South region, and I've been doing that for the past 8 years. So what initiated the Enrollment Task Force and this community input study and report? It was the Cooperative Sports Agreement. The school board was looking to dissolve the CSA with the belief that it discouraged enrollment in Faribault Public Schools, as students could open enroll to other Faribault schools and still take advantage of sports offered by Faribault Public Schools. There was significant community input to get to the root causes of declining enrollment rather than dissolving the CSA, as very few students actually take advantage of sports offered under the Cooperative Sports Agreement, and many more are out enrolling from Faribault schools. Upon further discussion about this at the Faribault School Board meeting last June, Superintendent Sesker offered to develop a committee, including other schools and community members, to look into the issues around declining enrollment. And you can watch that discussion through this link here or find it on YouTube. So we will begin by framing the issue. Faribault can thrive when enrollment in our schools is stable and growing. To ensure the growth and health of our community, we must address declining enrollment in the Faribault School District. We are here to gain a better understanding of the root causes for declining enrollment in Faribault-based schools and the increase in out enrollment to neighboring school districts. With this knowledge, we can do better. Here is an outline of what will be discussed in this presentation. I'll share with you a study timeline, the list of schools in Faribault, and we'll look at some of the numbers. What's the problem? How much enrollment is actually happening and where are kids going? We'll look at the survey questions, and I'll share with you who we talked to and study participants, and then we'll talk about key findings, and I'll share with you some recommendations and conclusion. So here's the timeline of this study. It started with an exploration phase last fall. And that's when the Enrollment Task Force kicked off. We reviewed Faribault Public Schools enrollment data and created 3 subcommittees. This is the Community Input Subcommittee, and there's also a Data and Staff Input Subcommittee, and both of those are chaired by Faribault Public Schools. Next was our design phase, and that was really looking at literature review, developing the framing statement, which I've already shared, creating our survey tool, and attending the broader task force meetings and providing updates on our progress at those meetings. The next phase was our implementation phase, and that was in mid-November to the end of the year. And here is where we began contacting parents to complete the online survey and conducting virtual interviews and key informant interviews. The final phase was our evaluation and data analysis phase, and that was throughout the entire month of January in 2021. Here is where we conducted our data analysis of all the interview and survey responses, and we wrote the report and presented the findings. So we'll start with just a high-level overview of the K through 12 schools in Faribault. We have our Faribault Public Schools system, and within that, we've got 3 elementary schools, a middle school, a high school, and our ALC. We also have a wide variety of additional educational options within Faribault, including charters, private schools, and also some state schools. Around us, within 20 miles, we have 7 other school districts. So by the numbers, what's the problem? Out enrollment from Faribault School District. Generally speaking, there is a huge number leaving Faribault School District. The current range is between 900 and 1,300 students total leaving the school district. In comparison, we have a very tiny number coming into the district. The range is 40 to 120 total incoming. The sources are Infinite Campus and the Minnesota Department of Education enrollment. We also have declining enrollment in Faribault-based schools. So the number of eligible students in our community is also declining. The population growth rate in Faribault is low compared to the state average. So our population growth rate is 2.4% compared to the state's average of 6.3%. And that's comparing the 2010 to 2019 census. Our percent of persons under 18, or essentially those eligible for school, is also declining in Faribault. In 2019, our percent of persons under 18 was down about 3% from 2010, again from the US Census. Also, as our birth rate in Faribault is declining. And this just takes into account the number of births at the Faribault Hospital. In 2016, the number of births at Faribault Hospital was 371. Last year, the number of births at Faribault Hospital was 277, a decline by almost 100 births annually. The source for this information was from Allina Health. Here's information about our enrollment capture rate. So if you look at the top left here in that table, you can see the total number of resident students that are living in the Faribault School District. You can see that the number has declined by 175 students over the past 5 years. The number of residents served within the Faribault School District has also declined. So our capture rate has remained fairly steady between 70 and 80%. Enrollment outside of Faribault. We've got a growing number of resident students who are open enrolling outside of Faribault. You can see in this table in the top left that our loss rate is growing year after year. The number who have open enrolled out has grown from 401 in 2015 to 592 last school year. So the loss rate is increasing while the total number of resident students is decreasing. In this table on the right, you can see the grades associated with this loss. Across all of the grades and throughout the past 5 school years, the greatest increase in loss has occurred in the 4th through 6th, 7th and 8th, and 9th through 12th grade levels. You can see the increase there. In the earlier, younger grades, enrollment has stayed relatively flat. So where are students going? This chart shows where residents are open enrolling out to. Outside of Faribault, the #1 district is Northfield with 295 students last year. We also have Medford at 2nd place with 156 students. We also have a group here called charters, and within charters includes Cannon River STEM School and Nurse Strand Elementary and Discovery School. So charters makes up about half of the loss from our Faribault schools. On the right here, you can see the percent change year over year, and the greatest growth in increase in enrollment outside of Faribault is definitely within the Northfield School District with a 23% change. So what about the demographics of our Faribault public schools? That should also be part of this conversation because it is changing rapidly. Over the last decade, you can see the student enrollment has declined by about 500 students overall. Our demographics have changed significantly. Our English learner population has grown. Our special ed population has remained relatively the same. Our non-white students has about doubled, going from about 25% to 50%. Our low income or those eligible for free and reduced meals has also increased, going from about 40% to just over 60%. And our white students has declined, going from about 70% down to maybe 45%. So as enrollment has declined, the student body for Faribault Public Schools has become more racially diverse and more socioeconomically disadvantaged, which really magnifies a lot of these issues. So now I'll touch briefly on the survey tool that was used. It was available in English and Spanish, and many of the questions came from an evidence-based tool from Blandon Community Leadership Program. All of the questions were open-ended with no character limits. So here are the survey questions used, and I'll refer to those as we look at results, but you're welcome to pause here and read through them if you would like. So whose voices are represented in this study? In the end, we talked to 18 parents or 18 different households. And these were parents who had opted to out-enroll their children from Faribault School District. And those children were either currently enrolled or had graduated within the last 2 years. We also did key informant interviews with cultural and diverse leaders representing Somali, Latinx, and African American communities, and we talked to 7 individuals there. And we also talked to neighboring district leaders and staff, 4 different individuals there, including Northfield and Medford public school districts, because we know that's where students are going. The total number of participants was 29, and of those, 13 did the online survey and 16 interviews were conducted. Parents identified which school their child had last attended prior to out enrolling, and we list those out here. We had 2 participants who moved to Faribault School District, but never actually enrolled their child in a Faribault-based school. We also asked a question around the average length of time that they took when deciding whether or not to out enroll from Faribault School District. And that timeline was about 6 months. So now we'll dive into some of the findings, and they're broken out into individual, student, and family level reasons for out enrollment. So those reasons that individual students and families made to leave the school district. We also have some findings around systemic and population level reasons for declining enrollment in Faribault-based schools. And that gets to some of the reasons why the number of eligible children in our community is on the decline. So within individual, student, and family level reasons for out enrollment from Faribault School District, we have 5 main categories identified, and these are captured in the responses to survey questions 1, 2, and 9. And they're broken down as follows, based on simple frequency of responses. The first reason is around academics and learning. The second is family relations, communications, and image. The third category is school climate and safety. The fourth category is diversity and racial bias. And the fifth category is sports teams and youth athletics programs. And the second key finding area is around systemic and population level reasons for declining enrollment affecting Faribault-based schools. There's 5 main issues identified, and they're captured in responses to survey questions 6 and 10. Again, the responses have been analyzed and broken down based on simple frequency. And they include, number 1, community pride, image, and investment. 2, the local educational system. 3, growing racial, social, and economic diversity. 4, housing and geography. 5, youth sports and athletics programs. So when you combine the individual and family level reasons with the systemic and population level reasons, we have our combined key findings. And they are listed out here from the highest to the lowest, from left to right. And the first one is our educational system. And within that, there are several things that are called out within their educational system, including quality, low expectations, student supports, culture, image, issue management, communications, staffing and leadership, many choices of schools in Faribault. There's a floodgate happening with so many kids leaving Faribault, stressed relationships between schools and the community, climate and safety, our changing demographics, financial cuts, and our English learner policies. The next category is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have changing demographics within our community, reception of newcomers, language barriers, cultural preferences, segregation, job growth, and political and social climate concerns. The third category is around community pride. There's challenges with our image, blue-collar town, perception of poor quality in Faribault, a perception that the community does not value education, investment concerns, our downtown, lack of school spirit, and loyalty to the community. The fourth area is around youth sports and athletics. There's politics and gatekeepers, a lack of team mentality, teams being too competitive too early, less involvement, fewer kids in sports, and struggling teams. And the fifth and final category is housing and geography. We've got issues around housing affordability, housing availability, our geography to other communities, and lakes. So all of those key findings are very challenging, and there's more information on those in the long version of this report. So here are some recommendations, and they're broken down by short-term, midterm, and long-term recommendations or goals. Review the report with staff, families, and the community. Let's talk about these things openly. Let's develop some action teams around some of these issues. And let's continue to evaluate the study data and dig deeper where we need to. Some mid-range goals. Schools should develop an issue management plan and team within each building. As issues come up, maybe they can work with families and disrupt that 6-month window where families are deciding whether or not they're going to leave. As families continue to leave, let's offer them an exit interview and share that information back to the school board. Let's talk about these things and learn from the families who are leaving. Let's evaluate and change any policies that are negatively impacting enrollment. There are policies in place that are hurting families, and they do impact enrollment. Let's look at those and let's see what we can change. Long term, Our community needs to invest in this. This is an issue that's been going on for several years and has huge impact financially across many sectors of our community. Perhaps bring in an outside consulting firm to lead some of the systemic change work. We can't do it alone. Let's develop some key metrics and shared goals. If it's not measured, the work just will not get done. Perhaps create a shared dashboard with the community, and let's share our progress and where we still need to make change happen. Perhaps the community will be more willing to stay and be part of the solution if they know that we're working on these things. Lastly, let's change the way we view and speak about our community. We heard loud and clear from study participants that there's an image problem and there's bad word of mouth within our own community. We speak poorly about our own community. And change cannot happen unless we view and speak about our community differently. It has to start from within. Conclusion, the progress is positive. As the person who has been closest to the work of this study for the past several months, I would advocate that anyone hearing this report do so with positivity and an eye towards progress. Yes, the content may have an undertone of negativity due to the nature of the topic of declining enrollment. However, I'm reminded that this work was initiated by the community requesting it last summer when the school board was considering the dissolution of the cooperative sports agreement. That didn't happen. The cooperative sports agreement is still in place, and this study did take place. So they entrusted me to lead this study and they requested that that be led by the community, and that's a great first step. The ask was purely that we talk to the community to identify root causes for declining enrollment, and I believe this study does that. This study is the product of the community speaking up and taking action. And acknowledging our challenges helps restore and build trust with the community, and that again should be viewed very positively. Everyone who participated in the study came to this issue with courage and the hope of helping to make a positive change for Faribault. Comments and conversations were respectful and candid. Listening to our community and our neighbors with openness and humility and sharing what they had to say without bias is a huge step in the right direction. So thank you for asking for this and for creating the space for these positive conversations to occur. Thank you.